Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Just playing a little bit of Factorio here. And, yeah. It's kind of it. Mostly, I mean, I finished Clair Obscur this week, so that was very good. And otherwise, I've just been playing a lot of Withering Waves still. A little bit of Factorio. Yeah. And this week on this channel, of course, Clair Obscur, as well as some solo role manging stuff. And Doom the Dark Ages is coming out this week. Reviews so far seem really positive. Maybe not as good as Doom Eternal was. The one review that I read indicated that it seems a bit closer to Doom 2016 compared to Doom Eternal. Almost like as sort of a correction. Because apparently a lot of people didn't care for Doom Eternal. I loved Doom Eternal, and I find it hard to go back to Doom 2016. So it's a little worrisome to hear that it's more like 2016 than Eternal. But yeah, I mean, reviews are positive, so I'm pretty excited. It's already pre-purchased. I went with like the deluxe edition or the premium edition or whatever. I wasn't going to, but I saw that it included the DLC whenever that comes out. And I figure I'm almost certainly going to buy the DLC anyways, so I may as well. Which does mean I get to play it a couple days earlier, so that's good. And so that'll be starting up this week. So it'll be Clair Obscur and Doom the Dark Ages for a while. But I do have a lot of shit to upload. So I have a whole Elden Ring Convergence thing that I recorded as well that I forgot about. And then I want to record more shit. I want to do some more stuff with Cataclysm. I'd really like to do a Zedra playthrough in Cataclysm. And I'd really like to do something again in RimWorld. It's been a while since I recorded anything in RimWorld. And I glanced at the recent mods and stuff. There's been some really cool stuff that's come out. So I'd like to do something a bit more hardcore maybe with like Combat Extended and like all the 40k mods and stuff. Something a bit more just shooty involved. I saw Combat Extended got an update recently where now you can like actually shoot down enemy drop pods if you have correct turrets set up and stuff. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, I was messing around with RimWorld a little bit in the hopes of getting it going with Archipelago, because there is an Archipelago implementation now. And it took some finagling. I got it running with like 30 some mods or something, like 40 mods maybe, like the essentials. And I got it so that the Archipelago client actually shuffled in some of the mod content as well. So like Dub's bad hygiene stuff, the toilets get shuffled into the randomizer, which is nice. So yeah, I would say RimWorld's probably going to pop up pretty soon on Two Brothers Play as part of Archipelago. Some sort of big run, probably LEGO doing a massive StarCraft 2 thing and me doing RimWorld is what I would guess. So that's all good. And I guess that's about it. Over on the exploring series, we had part 2. Yeah, part 2 of the Stillborn City, which was good. It's all good. And I worked on SCP-5251 this week. Black. Which is a pretty short one. It's like 20 some minutes, something like that. And it was kind of a leftover from the redacted SCPs video. About sort of an unknown anomaly that seems to erase information around it. Some researchers kind of get caught up in that whole business. Jesus Christ. What was I talking about? Yeah, Flax. So, it was mostly already written because it was a leftover from the redacted SCP video that I wrote. So, I needed a bit of a break this week. So it was nice to just kind of finish that off and just put out a 20-some minute video instead of an epic. And, you know, I like the lengthy stuff. I know a lot of people do like the lengthy stuff, but it's nice to put out some shorter stuff once in a while. So, it's always funny when I see complaints about lengthy videos. Because it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind doing short videos. That would be a load off my mind. And, you know, as you may know, when I started it, I wasn't doing long videos at all because I thought who's going to want to listen to all that. And then things just kind of ballooned out, and here we are, where I'm just known to do long videos all the time. I mean, I think most of the time it works out because, like, I think it's pretty fair to say at this point that the Volgan and I are the two kind of biggest SCP tubers, so to speak. I mean, in a sense. And he has a different style than I do, and he covers different articles than I do. So I think it works out that we don't really butt against one another at all, you know? people that want one thing can go to one channel, and people that want something else can go to the other channel, and it kind of, I think it just works. Yeah, so that's that. I'm not sure what I'm working on next week. I always like to keep myself in suspense. But I'm sure it'll be fun stuff. I guess that's about it. Not much else to talk about there. Right. So the RPG session that I had this week went fairly well. And there weren't any major issues. You know, last time they went through all the trouble of hiring people. And that introduced a good amount of tedium. Not everyone cared for, but they wanted to do it because they need some help. This time, you know, they had just finished hiring people and they were ready to make it out on the road again. Oh no, right. So they had gone back and they had tried to infiltrate the bandit encampment last time, and they really fucked it up by just dragging a guy off of a cliff while he screamed in pain. So then they ran back to their camp, but they were followed because these bandits aren't fucking around. And so they got ambushed by the bandits, but because they're quite powerful at this point, it wasn't that much of a problem. And then now they decided that they captured a couple of the bandits from that fight. And the bandits told them, you know, information, and they were being truthful because, you know, they didn't really want to get mixed up in this whole cult business. They just wanted to rob people and, you know, get loot and survive. So they offered what help they could. And then Lego wanted to bring them along. Bring them along to help them in their fight against the remaining bandits. And so he's like, you know, I will consider you know justice served if you assist us in this, and I won't turn you in and blah blah blah, but you have to fight every inch with us, you know, blah blah blah. And they were like, okay. And he gave them their weapons back and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, they kind of had a discussion about it. Because, and I had to sort of chime in as well, because it's just like, this is very, very optimistic of you to assume that they're not just going to turn around in the middle of the melee and just kill you. And, you know, Lego, as usual, when he gets called out for being dumb, he got very angry. But he conceded that it's almost certainly true that he tried offering them, like, money. But it's like, it's not a very good incentive because they can just take that money off your corpse. So, yeah, it wasn't really a great plan. Especially when you are outnumbered, you know. When you're going into a fight outnumbered and you want to enlist some of the opposite side to help you out, and it's like, especially bandits that don't have many scruples, you know, they're just gonna go to the winning side. So anyways, they decided to just tie them up to the trees and go on without them. That is really the worst sound, I think, in the history of video gaming. That sound effect is just in my nightmares forever. Right, so they went to the bandit camp, and my nephew was very confident. You know, he was like, I think we can just walk in the front gate. We're so powerful. We can just kick all their asses. And I had to kind of agree. It's like, it seems hard to kind of stop these guys. They're pretty fucking powerful. They decided against that. And I had to decide what exactly I wanted these bandits to do. Because one guy did make it, but he ran back. He fled. So he warned them. And I'm like, okay, what are these bandits going to do? They just sent 9 guys after, you know, 5 people. And apparently most of them died. So they're kind of outmatched here, apparently. Because now there's only 8 left. And I thought about maybe just having them flee, but I was like, that's kind of weak. You know, it's not super exciting, because then I have to remember that they are out there still, you know, and come up with something to do with them later when the players are even more powerful and it becomes even easier of a fight. So it's like, okay, let's not do that. Let's have them try and set up an ambush. And they have in their camp like this old stone tower, and it has like little windows, narrow windows that archers can fire out of. And I'm like, okay, they'll set up really like defensive positions, because they're pretty certain the players are gonna come up to that tower again. And so they set up their defensive positions, and the players basically went to every place in the camp before going to the tower, checking out every last building. So they got some loot, they rescued some prisoners, and they finally are okay. They were pretty sure that the bandits were gone, but they thought maybe they're in the tower. So they go to the tower and they immediately get attacked, ambushed by archers. And they burst into the tower, and there's a big fight, and it wasn't really that difficult, because, again, these guys have 4 HP, and yeah, I mean, it's just, it's like D&D. I mean, these are level 1 monsters against a level 3 party. It just, yeah, there's not much threat happening. I mean, there was a little bit. There's a little bit of threat, and actually, I think one player did go down, because I wanted the lead bandit to have some sort of magical item. And I try to insist, I think, and this is really a good thing to remember, is that if you're going to have an enemy that has a magic item as part of their loot or something, they should use the magic item during the combat. Because then that shows, you know, I mean, yeah, if it's like just a +1 battle axe or something, it's kind of hard to demonstrate that as being magical. But if it's like an actual interesting magic item, which most magic items should be, they should use it to show, okay, boom, magic, boom, it's a special item, and gives them a kind of a glimpse of what it can do and stuff. So I was like, okay, I want him to have some magic item, and I want it to be kind of flashy. So I gave him this magical gauntlet. And once per day, you can use it to cast a completely random spell. But has a 25% chance of backfiring on the user. I'm like, okay, this will be good. So he's desperate. He sees his men dying around him. So he's going to pull out his gauntlet. And he points it right at Lego, point blank, and he activates it. And I decided, you know, we're using axe for spells. We're using axe for, like, everything. But we're using axe for spells, so I was like, okay, it's going to be completely random. I'm going to roll a d6 to determine the spell level, you know. First level through 6th level. And then I'll just roll on the spell list for each level, you know, whatever it is. So he pulls it, and I roll a 5th level spell, and I roll Firestorm. So he unleashes Firestorm in the middle of this tower. Yeah. So it was pretty fun. Now, it's specifically, the damage is very much based on the caster level. Normally, you would not get access to that spell until you were 9th level, so it would do 9d6 damage upon casting. But I was like, okay, that's a little, I can't do it that way. I have to base it off the wielder's level. So I figured him as a level 2 guy, so it just did 2d6 damage. But if you fail your save, you get engulfed in the flames, and you take like a 2d8 damage like every turn. So it can be really devastating, but he rolled low on damage, and they all made their saves spectacularly. So it really wasn't that horrific. But it did kind of end the fight, because it killed off the other bandits. And I think it did drop my nephew. So he almost died. He made his death saving throw, and then he rolled on the sort of injury and setback table and got broken ribs somehow. But then the leader fled down into the basement of the tower where the fear spawn is. And so they chased after him. They went down into the dingy cavern, and they didn't find him, but they found the fear spawn. And so we got into an epic battle. And fear spawn is, you know, at level 1, it would have been pretty fucking decimating. But at level 3, he was just kind of somewhat tough. No one died, although my nephew went down again a second time. He made his death saving throw again a second time, and his injury and setback was just like a temporary madness. So he really got very lucky overall on avoiding death or a really debilitating injury. The fear spawn did damage to kind of everybody. And then when it died, well, actually, before it died, the bandit leader did rush out of the shadows to try and kill them, but my mom just one-shot him with her spear, with a crit, which everyone was pretty pleased about. But then the fear spawn died, and it like exploded in like black ichor all over the 3 surviving people. But they all made their saves, so no one took any damage. During the initial scuffle, though, their hireling did die, the level 0 fighter that they hired. So he was so close to becoming level 1. And what's really funny, I mentioned this to them afterwards, is like the Lego hired him specifically because he wanted him to be an archer. He wanted an archer, someone that could just sit in the back and just plink away with arrows and level up. And yet the first fight he gets involved in, really, he just rushes in. Lego just rushes him into melee without thinking. But as usual, that's sort of the MO for these guys. It's just not thinking. Damn it. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you. This is why I play muted most of the time. Rampant don't fuck around. So, right. So they defeated the monster. And they got some loot. They got the magic gauntlets. And they got down where the fear spawn was. There was like this dark magical dagger that if you disembowel a living creature with it, you can ask the DM one yes or no question. So if you're interested in just getting some DM cheese and finding the answer to any question you want, all you have to do is just disembowel something that is alive. Now, this is obviously kind of an evil thing, and my nephew is playing... Like, I just can't really relate, because he's playing like an evil character, essentially. He's playing a necromancer, he's summoning demons. He has no scruples about doing any evil thing, and he finds it very humorous to do so. I mean, it's obviously a very immature thing, and he's generally pretty immature. So it's just, I can't relate to it. And Lego obviously is playing a paladin who is kind of forced to do good and to do good things and to follow his code of honor. So they kind of clash. And my aunt is sort of similar in that she doesn't really care about doing anything heroic. She's not really specifically evil or anything. She's just like, why would we help these people? What's in it for us? Blah, 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 you know? She's sort of just chaotic neutral to a T. And so my nephew is very excited about this dagger and would probably very happily disembowel everything he finds just to ask nonsense questions. Lego, however, felt that, you know, he can't really obviously use it, and he wanted to know if he could break it down into like magical components. And I believe there was, I want to say this was D&D 5th edition. I doubt anyone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was 4th edition D&D that had just like magical residue or something that you could get and collect and use that to like enchant items or make magic items and stuff. I was like, okay, I mean, Axe doesn't really have that. It has miscellaneous magical components that you can just buy on the market if you need to just have filler for creating a magical item or something. But there isn't really just like Ethereum or, you know, something. It's just like some magical dust that is just a catch-all. But I was like, okay, I mean, you know, it's a reasonable enough request, and I'm not entirely opposed to it, so sure. So they wanted to break it down. And so they went back to Malorn after they grabbed some loot and stuff, and they took the prisoners back, they took the bandits back. They turned the bandits in, and they got the prisoners, rehabilitated and stuff and all that. And they ended up spending 1 month back in Malorn. It was originally just going to be a week for them to do a long rest, do some shopping, things like that. But it turned into a month because they wanted to hire a replacement for their fighter that died. And so I rolled up basically just a random character. And Lego just asked, "What's this guy's name?" And which forced me, of course, to make it a woman, just to correct his preconceptions. And she ended up being like a grieving mother or something like that, based on the random traits that I rolled. And her stats did not turn out too hot. And it was just kind of like somewhat humorous as the like, what is she doing? Why is she out on an adventure? And it's really just because like she lost her family and she's got nothing else to do. So they ended up, Lego tried to recruit her, and he even offered a signing bonus to her, but he rolled low enough that she just wasn't feeling it. So he got the try again result, where he had to like sweeten the deal even further to convince her to join. And they were just like, okay, fuck this, get out of here. And I sort of rationalize it as like she didn't really want to go adventuring. Like she thought maybe she did, but when actually faced with the possibility, she was like, no, I just can't do this. So she didn't really want to be hired. So it just wasted their time, basically. So then they were like, okay, this is dumb. They did some downtime stuff. He broke down the magical dagger and he got a bunch of magical components and stuff. And then they started talking about what to do next. And they decided that they kind of wanted to maintain that bandit camp. They kind of wanted to make that their base of operations, and I'm all for that. This is OSR gameplay, baby. So that's very good to hear. And without me mentioning it, thankfully, they realized that they needed a garrison. They needed men. They needed soldiers to kind of hold the fort down, so to speak. And so they wanted to hire mercenaries to garrison the fort. And again, this was good. I liked this. I think they went a little light on a garrison, because you have to consider that like there's only going to be so many men on duty at any given time, on patrol at any given time. Not to mention, I cut them some slack. I'm not going to go crazy with it, but you're not going to have a garrison literally of just, like, soldiers, I mean, I guess you can. But, I mean, they should examine the fact that they attacked a garrison fort, and the garrison lost to, like, 5 guys. So you kind of want to have pretty powerful numbers, especially because this is not a fort, so to speak. There's not walls all around it. In fact, its defenses are pretty minimal, really. It has a couple of walls and gates, but it also just is kind of on these, like, hills that you can just, like, grappling hook up. You can climb the hills past the walls pretty easily. So it's not super defensible. But, you know, it depends on what they're defending against, I suppose. Now, I didn't tell them. Well, okay, so they wanted to hire... I think they wanted to hire like 20 guys or something like that. Some light infantry, some heavy infantry, some crossbowmen. They wanted to hire 20. But I'm following Axe rules, and so we rolled randomly to determine how many men they could find in a month in this size of a town. And they ended up only being able to find 14. Now, I think you have to roll for, like, I don't know how it works for mercenaries exactly. I don't know if you have to, I don't think you have to roll hiring rolls individually. I have to re-examine that. But they hired 14. And they figured that that's enough. They're not going to wait another month. So they passed by a month as part of that process. And it was like, okay, what are you all doing for the month? Because this is now downtime. The fabled downtime activities. And I wanted to do it very free form. I didn't want to give them a list of what downtime things they could be doing. I wanted to just sort of say, you know, how are you spending your time? And I mentioned, you know, there could be possible benefit. You could be learning a new talent or learning a new skill. You could be studying magic. You could be hunting. You could be apprenticing in some way. You could be carousing. You could be doing target practice every day. Because I thought, you know, I'm not very good at handing out magic items that are going to give bonuses to stats. But I think it is fun to have stat increases as you level up in various ways. And it's not like they're going to be doing copious amounts of downtime. This is really their first period of downtime. And so Lego is very interested in leveling up his charisma. Like an actual, you know, stat increase, a permanent stat increase. He wanted to spend a lot of time at the temple, you know, take confessionals and serve, you know, talk to the giving alms to the poor and all that sort of stuff. So he wanted to level up his charisma. So I was like, okay, well, we need to come up with something that makes it not abusable. You know, if I'm going to give away permanent stat increases, it can't be something where you're just like, okay, I'm going to sit here for the next 2 years and I'm going to have 18 in all my stats. So it needed to be something not super abusable. And I didn't really put a specific time frame on this or anything. You know, they spent 3 weeks doing these downtime activities. It probably should have been closer to a month, but I'm like, okay, I mean, 3 weeks a month, I'm not gonna care that much. And I said, okay, basically, if you want to, you have to do the activity for this, you know, this whole period of time, and at the end of that period, you're going to make a d20 roll, and you have to roll above your current stat. And if you roll above it, you get an increase. And so this is, it's sort of like Call of Cthulhu, you know, it's sort of, it makes it harder and harder to increase as the stat gets better and better, which, you know, makes sense. So I think my mom spent the whole month doing target practice because her perception is like a 7. And she wanted to increase it because she wants to, you know, be better at perception checks and stuff. And she ended up rolling a 3 at the end of the month. So she was pretty bummed out. I think my aunt did the same thing and did level up her perception, and Lego did level up his charisma. And then my nephew spent the month studying to learn a random new tier 2 spell, level 2 spell. And I think he ended up learning Hypnotic Sigil, I believe. And he had the option, again, because he got a great success on his roll, so I offered him the option of Conjure Imp, which is the next step up from Conjure Cacodemon Spawn. And he decided against it because he was like, I never summoned my spawn. And I'm just like, I didn't say anything, but it's like, man, oh man. I've never found someone that likes magic so much and yet is so inept at utilizing it, like, efficiently. You know? Like, he's basically, he has conjure mains or call mains or something like that, which lets him every day, if he spends like 10 minutes, he can call forth these spirits and a number of spirits equal to his level. So right now he could call 3 spirits every day that just follow him and can participate in combat, dealing like D6 damage, you know? And it's just like, I can't imagine why you wouldn't basically every day just call forth these spirits at the start of every day, but he never does it, ever. And he's multiple times in the middle of combat, he just looks at his sheet and is like, can I call these mains to help out? And he's like, no, it takes 10 minutes. And I told him multiple times, like, you know, you probably would want to do that like at the start of the day. Never has done it. The Cacodemon spawn, he's summoned it a couple times to help with, like, scouting or something, but it just, no, he just, no. And so now you got the imp that he could summon that is actually pretty decent in combat. Like, if you summon the arachnid demon imp, it can do 2d8 damage per swing, you know? Which is more than any of them are swinging for. But, no, he went with Hypnotic Sigil, which is not a terrible spell, I suppose. But I would not hold out hope for him using it super efficiently. So yeah, they, you know, it was good. It was good to have the downtime. They got a bunch of luck back for resting for a month, and they hired 14 men, and that's where we ended. So now they're gonna go back to the encampment and set up shop there. Except I had planned already when they first went back to Malorn. I had already planned that the cult obviously is going to be pretty aware that the bandit encampment got wiped out and the fear spawn died. It's a pretty significant blow to them. So now the assassin, their cult assassin, is going to be on the trail. It's going to be kind of hunting them. And I decided, let's step things up a bit, because they're spending a lot of time. They're wasting a lot of time, especially now they spent a whole nother month in town. So now, they already knew that the zombies were kind of amassing in the old mines. You know, they knew that this was a threat that was building. But now I decided, okay, we're going to make this a bit more overt. And they have actually moved all the zombies into the encampment, because it's closer, sort of. It's closer to Ilmire. And so they're really, like, in the final stages that they're going to launch this big attack on Ilmire. And so now the team is going to arrive back at the encampment and find it just infested with, like, 100 zombies. And they're going to have to figure out what to do. I'll try to indicate to them that this is, like, the preparation for an invasion of some kind. Like, try to put a little kind of fire in their steps, so to speak. That, you know, at the start, when I started this campaign, I thought it was such a brilliant idea to make the change where all the, like, mind phage infected people are just, like, constantly smiling and really unnerving smiling people. I thought, oh, that's really going to be creepy. That's going to scare them. If I could go back, I would rip that change right out, because that sort of altered the entire campaign, because I so fucking spooked them from session 1 that they never, ever, ever, ever wanted to step foot in Ilmire ever again. They have not gone back to Ilmire since session 1. And they have very specifically avoided ever going near the place, because they think that it's completely lost. They're going to get infected. It's creepy. You know, they're just going to get attacked in the day. They're going to get attacked at night. No matter what, it's just horrible. And had I kept it as it originally was, where the infected people were just like really depressed and downtrodden and like almost zombie-like, that would not have creeped them out nearly as much, and they would have kind of slowly gotten more involved in Ilmayer and its problems. Whereas I basically kick-started the whole thing massively and led to this whole debacle of them basically having no base of operations and just like wandering the wilderness constantly. So if I could go back, or if I ever run this again for somebody else, yeah, I will not make that change. I was very foolish. But we're slowly righting the ship. It's just, it's taken them a lot of time to do so. And, well, frankly, things happen, you know? 3 months have gone by since the start. And the cult is going to continue to progress. And now they very clearly... I mean, so far, the players have not really represented much of a threat to the cult. But now they definitely do. They wiped out... Well, they killed a fear spawn. I mean, that is a very serious blow to the cult that they are not going to be happy with. So they have now... It's kind of like... It's kind of like in Hollow Knight. You know, when you get the first Dreamer, and then the first area becomes infected, and it's like this whole trigger, and then it's like, okay, you've entered the next phase. They have now entered the next phase, whether they're ready for it or not. So we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna see how it goes. You know, I'm sure they're going to want to, like, have an entourage go everywhere with them. So they always travel with just, like, a squad of soldiers. But that has its downsides. You toss all subtlety out the window. You toss all stealth out the window. You are just a mob. And you have to hope that they don't out-mob you. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're still very invested. They're still very interested. I thought we were almost going to have a TPK there. When I rolled up the firestorm inside of that small enclosed tower, I was like, oh, fuck, this is the end. But it ended up being not that big of a deal, thankfully. So yeah, they're still pretty invested. And I'm still interested in seeing how this continues. I think Evils of Ilmayer overall is a very good hex crawl. Like, if you're not interested in just coming up with your own. God damn, Rampant! He's so annoying. Yeah. So we'll see how that all goes. Alright, that's all I got to say then. So, more Clair Obscure this week, and more... Well, yeah, basically Doom Dark Ages is going to start as well. That's pretty much what it's going to be. And over on the Exploring Series, SCP-5251 Blacks. Okay. But for now, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.